Happy Loki Wednesday, my beautiful geekies, and Loki just delivered its best episode yet. Let's talk about it. So Loki and Sylvie are trapped in the Lamentis apocalypse as the TVA actively searches for them to stop the next Nexus Event. And before we start, there will be spoilers in this review, as there always are, so go watch the episode and then come back. This is a big one, so much happens. But before I give you my thoughts, let me know all of yours in the comments below. How do you rank the episodes thus far? And while you're down there, if you're new to the channel, consider clicking the subscribe button. It does wonders to get my content out there, and you'll always be aware of more Loki reviews and any other great content that I put up. There is so much to talk about in this episode, the philosophical questions that it raises, the stakes, the changing of the status quo, the twists and turns. It starts off great with an effective showing of Sylvie's backstory and how she was brought into the TVA in the first place as a little child, seemingly just by existing, and the TVA shows up with the main officer being Renslayer, which is really interesting. Now we have a direct connection between one of our protagonists and one of our antagonists. And we see Sylvie as a child going through all that process, signing everything she ever said and going through the metal detector to see if she's an android without knowing. And when she gets to her hearing, she steps on Renslayer, she steals the TAMPAD, and she begins her life of constantly running away from the TVA. We quickly go to Renslayer in the present, going to see the Timekeepers, and we finally have a glimpse of them that sets them up for later in the episode. Again, I'm avoiding spoilers for you to get a chance to see the episode. And as Lamentis is about to be obliterated, we have a really quiet and sincere moment between Sylvie and Loki where she tells him her story, and it really raises an interesting question, and it's all the more effective because you have two versions of the same person talking about the fact that they shouldn't even exist. Like, how do you feel about that? How do you deal with that? How do you live knowing that supposedly you're not even meant to exist, and just by existing you're doing something wrong? It's really interesting questions like this that Loki, the show, keeps bringing up and keeps exploring in really interesting ways. But soon enough, the TVA finds them as a spike goes through in the sacred timeline, and they're brought in and they're interrogated separately. Mobius gets to deal with Loki, and Sylvie gets put somewhere else where we, at the point in time of this episode, in the beginning, we don't really know what's happening. But Mobius is kind of trying, let me interrogate both of them, he asks of Renslayer, and she doesn't want that. She really doesn't want him to interrogate Sylvie for some reason, and she also keeps insisting that they had to eliminate C20, played by Sasha Lane, the girl who we saw at the bar with Sylvie the last episode, for some reason. And so when Mobius goes to interrogate Loki, I love that it's essentially the same setup from episode 1, but it's a very different dynamic. Loki is trying to appeal to Mobius's good side. He does like Mobius, he does trust him, he does consider him a friend, but Mobius just feels too betrayed. He's not buying that Loki doesn't know anything, that he's not working with the other variant. And so he sends Loki to a time chamber, which is basically a time loop, and we go to a moment where Loki apparently had cut Sif's hair, and we get Jamie Alexander as Sif back. She punches him, she kicks him in the balls, she punches him again. This happens repeatedly, and as a man, I truly felt it, my friends. And after this little detour, Mobius brings Loki back into the interrogation and tries to trick him, as he says, oh, you eliminated Sylvie, she's gone, it's a shame that you liked her. And he's trying to appeal to Loki's honest, real feelings, but Loki this time is not buying into it, and so Mobius has had enough. He still feels hurt and betrayed and puts Loki back in the time loop, and we see Loki just becoming so sad and depressed with this moment that he even sits down. He doesn't want to get up anymore. He's tired of the kick in the balls and all that, but he's even more tired about what Sif is saying to him, calling him a conniving, sniveling little worm, pathetic, that he is alone and he deserves to be alone and he will always be alone. And you see this really getting to Loki, especially in Tom Hiddleston's acting once more, Truly, truly spectacular. But as the TVA thinks they've closed the case and everything is fine and dandy, Mobius is grabbing a drink with Renslayer to celebrate their success, as this is a big career move for any TVA agent, and Mobius is poking in at Renslayer. He's interrogating her. He wants to know if there's some credence to what Loki was supposedly saying, that all TVA agents are real people, or were real people at some point, and they are all variants, and they were just brought in, and their memories were erased. And Renslayer sneakily and smartly, to her credit, really avoids the questions. She dodges them all, trying to convince Mobius, hey, everything is okay, it's nothing like that ever happened. But Mobius decides to go back to Loki, and he steals Renslayer's TemPad, in which he sees the interrogation of C20. Once she starts to talk about her memories, being at the bar, having real friends, being a real person, Renslayer stops the tape. Mobius sees whoever the interrogator was stopping the tape, and he sees that it was Renslayer, and so he goes to Loki, takes him out of the time loop, and they decide to try and escape, or at least find out something more. But as soon as they are out of the interrogation room, Renslayer is there with a few soldiers. She takes back the TemPad, and she prunes Mobius. Big shock right here. One of the big shocks of the episode. About halfway through, I was gutted, I was distraught, and credit to Renslayer. You can see that she has a kind of remorse about this. The fact that she at least believes she had to do this, and she feels bad. There's a true connection, a true friendship, maybe something more between her and Mobius. And I gotta give credit to the writers, I gotta give credit to how they're writing this character, but also to Gugu Mbatha-Raw, who plays this really well without saying a single word. And as this is happening, Biff 15 throughout this episode is having these kind of silent, quiet moments with herself where we understand that she's doubting something. She steps into Sylvie's interrogation room, she takes her to the Rock's cart location from episode 2, and we learn that through the enchantment, B-15 was able to see something, some kind of memory from her past. And I love this scene, ironically, because they don't show us anything. We focus a lot just on her reaction and her emotions coming through as she sees whatever her past life was, and even Sylvie feels happy that she now knows this, that she now has remembered who she once was. And so Bib 15 disappears for the time being, and Renslayer takes Sylvie and Loki down the elevator shaft. Sylvie starts to interrogate her about what was the big Nexus event on her timeline, on her existence. And Renslayer once more avoids the question. I love the answers that she gives. What does it matter? I don't remember. But you can clearly tell, once more, credit to the writing, to the line delivery, to the acting in general of Gugu Mbatha-Raw. She's lying. She's totally lying about this. She does remember. And so the Lokis are taken to the Timekeepers, and we finally see them in all their full, I don't want to say glory, but their cool appearance. We finally see the Time Lizards. And the Timekeepers sit there on their high and mighty floating chairs, interrogating the variants if they have anything to say about in their defense before getting pruned. And they're like, you didn't bring us here just to be eliminated. We're not afraid of you. If anything, you're afraid of us, which makes sense out of everything we've seen. It adds up. And soon enough, B-15 shows up. She throws Sylvie a sword, a really cool looking sword by the way, and an awesome action sequence starts. Really well shot, the location is really interesting, bright lights, bright colors, you can see everything, it's really cool. Loki takes care of a few TVA agents as we get a standalone standoff, a one-on-one standoff between Sylvie and Renslayer. Sylvie gets the better of Renslayer, and after that, she decapitates one of the Timekeepers. She decapitates the guy in the middle, which, by the way, the Timekeepers do look a lot like Kang. They even kind of look like they have the same headpiece, all of them. The one in the middle, though, he's blue. He does look a lot like Kang. The other ones just look like kind of lizards, you know? But they still have that kind of same headpiece. And they're androids. They're just a facade, which to me is really interesting that we get this reveal in episode 4, because we got 2 more episodes to go, and so now this gives credence to the rumors, speculations, and theories that have been out there that we're going to see Kang the Conqueror in this show, but to me, I think Kang the Conqueror is behind the TVA. He created all this thing. It makes sense for Renslayer to have wanted this to be a big secret, given their backstory in the comics, if they're going to adapt that. I just think it's really interesting. And again, the fact that these are mere androids, it now raises the stakes and raises more questions for the rest of the show. And after this, we get a moment that I really didn't want to see it happen, where Loki feels like he's about to tell Sylvie that he likes her. He feels, it looks like he's going to kiss her. He puts his hands on her shoulders, but Loki gets pruned. Another big shock, another stab to my heart. For a moment I was like, oh my god, is the rest of the show going to be just Sylvie? Is Sylvie going to be our main character? Do we have our new Loki? And it was Renslayer who pruned Loki, but Sylvie gets the better of her. She's about to prune Renslayer. Renslayer says, do it. And Sylvie says, no, you're going to tell me the truth. And we cut in this episode. But wait. There's more. In a post-credit scene, Loki wakes up and asks if he's dead. And we hear a voice saying, no, but you will be if you don't come with us, or something among those lines. And we don't see much of the location, but it looks to be like the destroyed New York with the Avengers Tower and all that we have seen in the trailers. And oh my god, we see Sir Richard E. Grant in the classic Loki costume from the comics, which is, I didn't know it, but was everything I wanted to see in my life. We see a kid Loki that looks to be taken from the Young Avengers and Original Sin storylines that have been quote-unquote recently in comics. He has a croc Loki with a little crown and horns on his head, which is really cute, and who looks to be like a variant of Scourge the Executioner. Really interesting stuff. I love this episode. If you guys can't tell yet, I love this. I have no issues. I love the payoffs to the setup that we've been getting thus far in the previous 3 episodes. I like the consequences that we get. Loki dies. Mobius dies. And if Loki is somehow alive, is Mobius somehow alive? Is everyone we ever saw getting pruned alive somehow, some way? I love the constant changing of the status quo. I love the philosophical questions that it raises and explores in such interesting ways. Amongst this wacky fantasy world of the MCU, we got some really compelling stuff in this story with Loki, and I could not be happier with this episode. Just tremendous stuff from beginning to end. I cannot wait what the rest of the show will be like. And so those are my thoughts on Loki episode 4, the Nexus Event. We still got to explore whatever that Nexus Event on Sylvie's existence was, because Renslayer is lying. She's totally lying. But what did you think? Drop it all in the comments below. How do you rank the episodes? Did you have any issues with this one? Let me know all of that. And if you've watched this far, consider clicking the subscribe button. You enjoy the video on some level if you're still here, and you're a variant of mine, so I understand your thought process better than anyone. Trust me. Thank you so much for watching. You are the best. Later today I have my review of Fear Street Part 1, 1994, and tomorrow my review for The Tomorrow War is coming as well. I hope to see you in all of those and the future Loki reviews. So until the next one, love each other and love the movies.